Hey everyone, Tony D and little Joan here. Joan is busy licking my table where I set down my ice cream cone earlier, so I'll let her get back to that. Um, Big news. Uh, South Korean President Moon Jae-in restated a call Wednesday for the declaration to an end to the Korean War, saying it would pave the way for complete denuclearization and lasting peace on the peninsula, as he took part in the annual United Nations General Assembly session via video links. He requested the international community support so that the Koreas could advance into an era of reconciliation and prosperity through the end of war declaration. This year marks the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the war, which ended in 1953 in an armistice, not a peace treaty. And again, this is another victory for Trump. Remember when they said, oh, it's going to start World War III? He's calling him Little Rocket Man. How dare he insult a dictator? How dare he talk to a dictator? He all Trump had to do, and he did it, was get things going and get out of the way, because the Koreans want a united peninsula. They want it. Now, do they want to live under the rule of Kim Jong Un? No, not even Kim Jong Un wants to live under that. It's good for him, but he knows he can't hold the country together. He knows the South Koreans have state of the art weapon systems and technology that are like 40 years ahead of what he has. He could get a few things from China, but at the end of the day, he's relying on old fashioned, mortars and cannons and the threat of blowing the hell out of South Korea, really. I mean, his nuclear weapons, they might reach their targets, maybe, but there's a just as good a chance they'll blow up on the launch pad or fall right into the ocean or land many, many miles away from their intended targets, because they don't have the technology or the money, and they know it. So they can't withstand, a war, a real war. They would get obliterated. They would all be killed. They're trying to avoid that. They're basically at this point trying to avoid, being hung for being genocidal maniacs, because of their, re-education camps and the horrible way they treat their own citizens. So if Kim Jong-un can just hold it off just long enough to retire in the South Seas while, whoever his successors, rebuild the country under the new auspices of whatever, and everybody gets electricity and food and water from the South, then, yes, he'll escape justice, but it'll be a win for the people of North Korea. They won't be starving, living under a regime again. And then, once that's been established for a few years, if he's still alive, they can always go back and find him. That's the thing, you can always go back after he's given up power. But, there is something to be said for if he cuts a deal where, hey, you're not going to come and kill me, right? You're not going to, drag me in front of the world court and hang me for my crimes, right? I just want to go live out my life with, banging supermodels on the beach in the Riviera with my millions of dollars. And then you could have the country. Does he escape justice? Yes. But you also want to encourage other people to give up that power. So it's a real tough call. But again, this is a victory for Trump, who everybody said, oh my God, he's going to blow us all up. Oh no. Meanwhile, the House, hoping to avoid government shutdown with a vote on a temporary spending bill, they have funded the government up to December 11th. Thank you, I guess. I guess the Democrats, I'm surprised how quickly they came to that deal, because I guess it's because the Democrats are really taking it on the chin in terms of who's to blame. So holding up, the government, especially during an election year, would not look good. So it's not surprising that they pushed it all through. Right, doggy? Yeah, we're talking politics. Very boring. But the thing is, you know, Trump is not going to take anything lying down, and that's why people like Trump. If you you remember back in the day when other politicians, they just fold like a house of cards whenever it's convenient for them. Oh, it's getting a little too heavy here. Trump, man, he comes out swinging. But he said on Fox and Friends, if the Dems try impeachment again just to block the nominees, the Republicans will win. Trump will win. They'll win everything. That will be even worse, if you can imagine. I mean, the Dems are already in a terrible, terrible position. It seems like every day they do something to make it even worse. The other day, Nancy Pelosi had some sort of brain malfunction and just randomly said, "Good morning," Sunday morning in the middle of an interview. Um, so who the heck knows what's going on with her? She is 80. Maybe she had a brain malfunction, or maybe she just got distracted and started talking to somebody off camera and wasn't really paying attention. I think it was probably that, politicians are used to talking and talking and talking. I think they're so used to answering questions and talking and basically saying BS that they stop listening to themselves. They're kind of on autopilot, and I think maybe that's what happened to Nancy Pelosi. She was so on autopilot, she wasn't even listening to her own words, and then when she kind of came back to, oh, let me tune in, what the hell am I saying? She like couldn't remember where the conversation was and just said the first couple of words that came to her brain. And I'll just keep smiling, people will ignore me, kind of thing. But she was on TV where they could play that clip over and over again on TV and the internet. They won't play it on TV, obviously. But yeah, the Dems are just, every day they just take it on the chin, and they never seem to get any smarter. There was a little bit of rumblings that they're finally getting the message that people in this country are sick of them and their antics, and that they've pushed things way too far. But, at this point, you might as well just call this election a loss. You might as well just give it up. Don't spend any money advertising. Just sort of, limp through it and try to start fresh out the other side. But I think the Democrats are going to find their party in an absolute wreck coming out the other side. I think they're going to lose races they never expected to lose. I think they're going to lose in places they're going to say that this has to be wrong. Donald Trump had to have cheated, or, the Republicans had to have cheated to win. I think Republicans are going to be aghast that they're winning so many different races. I hope that woman in Baltimore wins. I forget her first name. Her last name's Kallick. And she's kind of a smoking hot African-American woman who is running for, I think, the congressional district in Baltimore. And man, she puts out some good commercials. She is very, very convincing. And she went on The View and told those guys to go pee up a flagpole, as it were. But the Democrats are they're just running scared. They're just running scared. They don't know what they do. And there's one thing they should have done in the beginning, and now it's so nearly impossible. And that is sit down and go, okay, what do we really stand for? Let's rethink this whole thing from beginning to end, and let's try to do something different. Let's try to appeal to voters. And, I read an article that they're losing unions. That, labor leaders are still very much Democrats, but their rank and file are all for Trump. The rank and file just are like, with the Democrats. They're done with them. The average worker is just like, screw it. I'm going to vote for Trump. I can't vote for you crazy people. The Democrats who have, and they have kept, in my view, they've taken for granted the working people. They've taken them for granted for years and years and years, especially under Hillary Clinton. It was glaringly obvious. And, Joe Biden's shtick is wearing real thin. Real thin. back in the day, I bought into it. You know, I thought, oh, he's kind of a working guy. He takes the train to Washington, D.C. That's kind of cool. He seems like a man of the people. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not when he's like worth millions of dollars and he gets his son a job in a country where he doesn't even speak the language and he's making like ridiculous amounts of money. That's not a man of the people. That's a guy who's been in government way too long. When you get your son a job like that, it's just way too long. So there's nothing left, in my view, of Joe, the man of the people, Joe. He's still telling stories from 40, 50, 60 years ago. And, they just don't resonate anymore. When he says stuff like hi fi and radio, you just go, what? Are you Mr. Burns? Are you like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, dude? Yeah, hi fi? People don't even know what you're talking about anymore. I know what a hi-fi is because I'm 54, but Jesus, I can't imagine, my nephews or niece would know what hi-fi. What the heck's that? Is that like Wi-Fi? I mean, that's what they would say. And on top of the fact, he's just having a senior moment. Almost every event he goes to, he has some sort of weird moment. The other day, he was giving a speech in Philadelphia, and he kind of just ignored the reporters and walked, and he had this long distance to walk, and it was just stupid the way it was set up. Like, you don't set it up like that, Joe Biden's campaign. If you have an area like that where he's giving a speech and then he has to walk this long distance, you put up a curtain. You like put up a big barrier so nobody sees him walking. You don't want to see an old guy like that walk. What if he trips? If he falls down, it'll be a disaster. Yeah, and it's just uncomfortable and awkward and weird to see him like, okay, I'm Joe Biden, thank you. And then it's like, walk, 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 walk. Reporters are shouting questions at him. Walk, 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 walk. It's like, holy cow, man. Can't have that. It's visually bad. And they'll make all sorts of memes about it, I'm sure, if they didn't have that amazing meme of him playing a song on his phone and bobbing his head. I mean, that's just too easy to pass up. What are the Dems going to do? What do they have to offer? I can't even tell you anymore. Uh, this RBG thing, it's unbelievable. I got to talk about it in another video before I go too long.